Hello, everybody, and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here. This is probably the day a lot of you have been looking forward to for a while now. This is our official Cedar Point tier list, and I'm joined by this awesome cast of crazy keepers, right, Mario? And that is starting, of course, with my great pal Mario from Mostly Coasters. Make sure to go check him out on YouTube and Instagram. Right below him is our great pal Zach, who was fortunate enough to go to Cedar Point and convince us all to go to Cedar Point last year. And below him is, of course, our great friend Becca, who actually works at Cedar Point. Hi, Becca. You do the Instagram too, yeah?
Sometimes.
Okay, and then below her...
I mean, don't forget the fact that the only reason you guys came out to, see Cedar Point was because I housed you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because we're all...
You didn't mention that in any Cedar Point video.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to.
Yeah, I want credit.
Oh.
Thank you, Becca.
Yeah,
Let's
go
give her a round of applause
Becca.
for
I
Becca.
still have another couch
Becca.
if you guys want to come back. So
I'm clapping.
I'm gonna show up tomorrow just randomly, even though the park's not open.
it's fine.
But yeah, without Becca, we wouldn't be able to travel to Cedar Point last year, which I think was
Well, we could have
definitely a
traveled. We
highlight.
would have just had to sleep in the rental car.
Yeah, we would have slept in the
It was
car.
the pros and cons of me moving away from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then below her, in the pits of Zoom purgatory for some reason, is our great friend Cliff from Analog Thrills, who you can check out on Instagram. As you can see, he's doing a little pose there. How cute. Yeah, Cliff?
What does your shirt say?
Touchdown.
Pull up and...
Hi.
It's Parks Bros.
Hey.
I think.
But without
This is
further
Parks
ado,
Bros, right?
we need to get going on this list. We have 17 coasters. We're not counting Pipe Scream as
Only
a
17?
coaster.
It's not a coaster.
Well, okay. I'm pretty sure all of us don't think it's a coaster, right?
It's not a coaster.
Cliff.
Yeah, sure. No.
Put her on D tier and call it a day.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
if you've
that
never
was
seen these
probably
videos, what we do is go through each of the coasters at a park and then tier them. And pretty much say, oh, do we think it's a star attraction, like S tier? Or do we think it's just kind of okay and it's there, so it's D tier? Or if it's middle of the road, it's a supporting coaster for those big stars of the park, and it's a B tier, So that's kind of an idea of what we're looking at. But first, we're going to start off with one that's probably going to be a little controversial, I think. And this is Val Raven, the B&M dive coaster at Cedar Point. Where do you guys think this tiers?
Who starts? Me?
Whoever
Wait,
wants.
why are we starting with Val?
It's
Because
where
we're
it's
starting
put.
with Val. That
Reverse
is
alpha-
how we agreed
Because it's to the V.
freaking list.
Yeah.
So random. Usually
It's
like
reverse alphabetical, right?
Well, do you want me to go
W's?
alphabetical? We can change it up.
Well, it's reverse alphabetical, right?
No,
Starting
but
with,
he's missing
no,
the two W coasters.
I don't know. Whatever, man. Who cares? Who cares what order we're going in?
No, I had my whole list
That's
planned
true.
out from top to bottom, bottom to top.
Well, I'll go first, and then
This was
that'll
just
give you
like,
time to figure
oh, I'm
out
sorry,
where
there's
Val
3
Raven is on your
Ws.
paper.
No, I see it. I just wasn't ready for it. You've got 3 different W coasters here. So.
Val Raven is very good. It's very smooth in the middle. The outside seats get shaky, which no one talks about, so it's probably just a me problem. Very fun, kind of on the shorter side, still really good. Probably one of the best dive coasters. I think it is. It's based on the park, right? It's based on the park.
Yeah, based on the park. Based on the park, yeah.
Okay, so for the
Based on the
park,
park.
I'd say it's B tier.
Okay.
I'd say it's B also.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're all kind of in agreement so far because I definitely have it as a B. It's good for what it is, but it's just a dive.
I think if we're talking
it's
about
better.
all coasters, it's A tier, but for Cedar Point, which has the best coaster collection out there, B tier.
Yeah, it's fine. The drop is good because it's a dive. And then the 0G roll at the end is probably the best part of the ride, but everything else is just meh. And you're right, it is very short.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd stick with B tier too, even just trying to think of it from more of a GPU point of view in a way. I mean, it has that appeal to it because it is really big and it's vertical, but experience wise, the only things that do really stand out are just the drops, and then maybe the 0G roll. That's about it. And then pretty much everything else you guys said too, I totally agree with. So,
I mean,
What about vest restraints?
that's probably the only downside I think to the
See, I
ride.
personally like Griffin much better, partially for that, but also because of just it's a better layout in my opinion. But
Shikra is so good. It's really good.
still have not ridden Sheikra.
But
But
you guys have all said B tier, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
Right,
actually
but-
gonna 100% agree with you guys. I think it's a perfect supporting coaster at pretty much any park. I mean, it's not meant to be like a superstar attraction, and especially at Cedar Point, it's like a perfect support for something like Millennium Force that's right next door. Or
I mean,
Yeah.
you definitely, if you look at it the way that the park might have put it in, it's definitely like an attention grabber for the general public,
Mhm.
just like Dragster is. Like they're attention grabbers. You're not gonna see that the public is gonna go, oh my gosh, Steel Vengeance, like right away. They're gonna be driving up. Oh my gosh, what is that thing going, vertically down?
Yeah,
What's that
especially
thing
like if you're
that's
entering at the
above
front.
everything.
Yeah.
especially like you said, like everything kind of packed to the front like that.
It's
It just seems
definitely
like-
supposed to be an attention grabber. It was never. I don't think it was ever meant to be like a top tier like.
And it was
Yeah.
meant to also break park records by adding another
That
200
too.
foot tall coaster.
Can we just take a moment of silence for everything that disappeared because of it? Turnpike cars, the Good Time Theater.
Didn't Wildcat? Wasn't that one of the things that?
Wildcat was across from Dragon, so
Oh, okay.
Wildcat,
Got it.
yes, I think went away. Well, they took Wildcat out in 11, right?
I have no idea. That's why I was asking.
What cars
been
did
so
it
long. I
replace?
never
Because
got
they don't need
the-
more cars at that park. They already have
Turnpike.
two car
Seriously.
rides.
It was the Turnpike cars. They were the
They
tiny
already
little
have two
Cadillacs.
car
They already
rides.
have two and they're both
super hard
They
to
medium.
get
have
into.
2 car rides.
In my opinion,
We'll
what they
have-
should have done is take out Cadillacs and put Turnpikes there because Turnpikes were actually a different type of car.
Well, in my
And the
opinion, what
old
they should do is just
antique
get rid of
cars.
all the antique car rides because they're all trash.
Antiques is a great ride. Get out. Cats is
all right,
not as good.
all right. We're gonna move on to the next coaster because this is getting brutal.
Drew's just gonna cut all this out. It's fine.
Well, there was no arguing going on with the roller coaster.
Yeah,
Just
we were
getting
fine
out
with the
everything else.
coaster, and we've got another 16 to go through. We gotta, Zoom's gonna kick us out. So next up, do you want me to do the next one up that is on my screen, or should we skip that one for later?
I
Skip
don't
it.
care.
Skip
Do
it.
whatever you want, man.
All right,
that the- I
Millennium
can tell you-
Force.
Okay, this is gonna create controversy between all of you and me.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. Thanks, Zach, for starting the timer. Let's start with Mario. Let's just go down the line. Mario, Zach.
Don't start with me. I don't know. I'm gonna skip.
I'm
skip.
still
pass.
All right, should we just skip? Okay, corkscrew.
Oh, corkscrew.
D. All I need
Quirky
to say
screw.
is D. That's it.
Porky,
It's a D.
porky, screw.
It's not the best ride, but in terms of what it does and what it's meant for, I don't think it should be a D. I put it as a C. But
Is
that's
it meant
because-
to break your spine? Because if that's a criteria, then it should be S tier.
No, it's meant to be like a kid's first upside down roller coaster. Like it's a
Oh, I would not
classic,
let my child go on
old,
that.
We all
Wow,
know it's
that's
gonna
Scrap
hurt.
metal.
Not every seat hurts on that ride though. Like you can find
Yeah,
some decent rides.
I have to agree with that because like my ride on corkscrew wasn't really nearly as terrible as some
I've heard
people.
car 4
say-
is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
sure that's where
we
Garrick and I
rode.
sat.
Yeah.
It's definitely not
ride it right.
even when I did get a decent ride on it, it's definitely not a coaster I would flock to again. I only got one ride on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that every now and then I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, we're passing by, let's ride. Like, usually it's to go say hi to whoever's working the ride, but
Yeah.
like every now and then I'm like, okay, we can go ride corkscrew. Like,
And personally, like just that little airtime hill alone kind of elevates it above something I would normally put in D tier.
If
that
it wasn't
drop
painful,
too
I would
always
agree.
like it's interesting because the drop always like surprises me. Like
Yeah.
it's not the greatest, but it
Mhm.
still surprises me for what I am expecting.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
in all honesty, like I said before, like I don't have very many things in the D tier because I don't think the park has anything that's really that low.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can say I've been on a handful of other like aero corkscrew coasters, and I think even just lined up against those corkscrew coasters, like this one actually stands out a little bit better.
Dude, it's
Again,
the worst
placement
arrow
is
I've
beautiful.
been on.
Worst arrow.
The
I was
worst
gonna-
arrow I've ever been on. Are you kidding me?
I was gonna say it was the worst arrow.
Did
I've
you
been on.
ride Vortex?
I did buy Vortex and I
I
thought it
Vortex
was okay.
I thought Vortex was fine.
Zach, you didn't go to Kings Island.
Oh wait, I was thinking of Demon. Never mind. Don't ignore everything.
Demon's also better, and I think
Have you-
Demon is
Demon-
mediocre.
Demon's
Have you
are-
ridden Ninja at
Demon-
Six Flags St. Louis?
No.
Because that one's pretty bad.
Well, I
too.
can imagine, but like that doesn't mean that this isn't D tier.
I still don't think that Corkscrew is that low. Like
Wait,
as
okay.
a coaster itself. Is
Mario
it
D.
in the best shape? No, but
Zach,
D.
Becca,
Oof.
C, right?
see.
Cliff.
See,
Okay. I'm
You
actually
think it's
gonna
only
say-
one tier lower than Valorant? Are
There's
you
gonna be a-
kidding me?
there's going to be a lot of other coasters on here that are going to be 1 tier lower
Okay,
than
ma-
Val Raven.
Maybe
Sure.
Valorant. Yeah, and they're all going to be better than Corkscrew. Okay, Zach's right. We need to move on.
um,
Oh, Drew, it's all up to you then. If you say C, it's C. If you say D, it's D.
this is where I'm torn because, like, it was the first coaster to have 3 inversions on it. You know,
It's in
So-
a beautiful place on the Midway.
Not really.
Santa Monica West Coaster is in a beautiful place too.
not really.
True. Fair enough. Okay.
I don't know if I can say D.
Yes, you can. You do I need to like play the clip of you
D,
getting off it and being like, that's bad. That's so bad. Are you kidding me?
Okay, I mean for its historical
don't feel pressured at all, Drew.
I don't feel pressured.
for its historical like presence, I would definitely say C. But as
Ride.
just a ride,
experience.
I think I'm gonna have to say D.
Ugh.
It's in
Okay.
between the two for me personally, so that's gonna be.
I mean,
3
if you're
Ds.
gonna put it as a D, it better be a high D.
It would be
Yeah,
a high
same.
D.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because there are definitely like lower Ds on this list that we'll get to
That's like-
later. and I
There's
can't-
like 2, and if you want to fight
there's
me
like
on
4.
that, too, we'll
Okay,
get
all
there.
right. So
That's
next
cool.
up,
What are worse than
40
that? What's the
minutes.
worst coaster in the park? Okay.
I'm not saying it's okay. A
It's
tier
just it's
list-
fun to argue in one of these.
a tier
Every other
list is
tier
not
list I've been a part
frick.
of has just been agreeing and agreeing and agreeing.
A tier list is not a
Frick
ranking
are you
video.
saying?
A tier list is not
I
a
mean,
ranking
you're
video,
not
Mario.
wrong, but
It is. It is
no.
all about seeing what's the star attraction and what's an attraction that's just kind of there, right?
If we're
So
talking about what's the star and what else is there,
That-
that would have been 2 seconds, like
Yeah.
That's the frickin'
2 or 3
point.
stars, and then the rest is
All
just
right.
there.
Okay, well we have it placed. Let's move on.
Frick.
so should we do that one I was going to do last, or are we going to skip that
Let's
and go
do
to
it.
Magnum?
Let's actually just do Magnum first.
Both of these are going to start arguments, I think.
Oh, good.
Oh
Really?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh
probably.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
like
yeah.
ejector.
Yeah,
airtime.
because it's going to be 2 on 3 for both of them in different ways.
Okay,
So
let's do it.
which one, Magnum or Millie?
I
Magnum.
don't care.
Magnum, it
Magnum.
is. Okay, Mario, go ahead.
Dude, this ride is so good.
we're talking
The
about
fact that it's a hyper coaster, I don't feel like is the most like incredible thing about it. But like, still starting off with those huge hills is kind of fun, and then it turns into floater, and then it turns into terrible transitions, and then it turns into fantastically terrible ejector airtime. I love this coaster. As Garrick has said, it has no business existing, but it does, and it's great. A tier,
Yeah.
A tier easily,
Okay. Zach?
borderline S tier.
I don't know. It's hard for me to judge it just because I didn't have the greatest rides on it when I went on it. Basically, I just wasn't feeling it every time I went on it. Because
Didn't
every
you say
time
it
I
was
got
like Desperado, basically?
it, in a way, it just felt like a more aggressive Desperado. And I like Desperado, personally. I didn't think it was awful. But I don't know. I'd probably put it as A.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay.
If I went on it just like now, like I feel fine now. I just wasn't, I don't know if I was just not feeling good or what. I just didn't have a good ride on it.
Well, your first ride was from you were exhausted from a red
Yeah,
eye
you
flight
passed
and
out,
dancing
like-
for
Your
like an
first
hour on
rides
the way to the park.
anything was like a mess.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll just put it as A because I think that's what I would, if I were to write it today, I think that's what I would put it at.
Okay.
I think I'm
Okay.
going to surprise you guys with this one, actually.
Oh,
S.
C tier.
I personally love this ride more than most rides in the park. I personally have it as an S,
oh wow.
but
okay.
that's because I personally rank it as my 3rd favorite coaster in the park. because I
Fair.
think
That's
it's better
very
than
fair.
most of the rest of the park. Is it a little janky? Yes. I can't
No,
lie
it's
to
very
you.
janky.
It's very, very.
I can't lie, but it's still probably one of those coasters that I every single time will say, "Oh, let's go ride Magnum." Like, let's always go ride Magnum. I think it's got some of the strongest elements in the park in terms of intensity. I think it's just overall a very well done ride. Is it showing its age? Potentially, but I still think I'd put it over something else that you guys are gonna hate me for later. But for me, it's
we
an
know.
S.
If I think
Okay.
I know what you're talking about, I could perfectly
But that's because
agree
I
with that.
think the other one is
Oh,
overrated.
Mario, no.
And
Okay, let's do Millie next then. Shall we?
but personally, for me, Magnum is an S tier coaster.
Cliff?
Thank you.
Well, like Becca, it's also my number 3 in the park.
Very
I
fair.
Who?
I definitely think Magnum fits in. It fills those little niches of preference that I have. I like janky rides to some extent. I like rides that feel so wrong. But I would also recognize that like something like Millie in the park might be a little bit more fulfilling overall to more like to a broader audience.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
It really depends on what you're looking for too.
Right. It mainly is just like a preference thing. I think, and also just take, I know like Drew's going to argue like the history of it, and I think that's like a big part of it too, is like historically a really relevant coaster, and it would normally be an S tier for me. But I think now where it stands at this time and place today, I think it best is suited for an A tier, but like a high A tier. Like you have to have the respect for like what it's been and what's like, you know, what relevance it has, and like also having that appeal to enthusiasts that are going to like allow enthusiasts to flock to it to find something different that you wouldn't get on other coasters.
Yeah.
You know,
I just think people don't give it the credit it deserves.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, A for me for sure.
So we've got 3 A's and an S, yes?
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually. I'm going to say A as well. I don't know if it's necessarily like the big star at the park anymore. It really doesn't seem to be, at least with like the general public or, you know, a majority of park guests.
I don't
Okay,
know.
hold on. I'll argue with
Cause
you on that one.
I
Well,
would
okay.
too, yeah.
You
'Cause
have to
it's-
remember that ride is a capacity machine if they're
Yeah.
running 3 trains.
That is
Yeah.
true.
And when we've gone down to 2, it can back up a line. And on really, really busy days, even on 3 trains, you'll get a line. Like
also, you have to, you know,
most
But it
of the
moves
thing
so
with
quick
it,
when the station was packed when we were there.
Yeah.
exactly. Like most of the thing you're noticing, like, oh, it's not that busy. No, it's just going that quickly.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like how
like-
Vortex was at Kings Island. It had the highest ridership of the park, but it never had a line.
Right. Like,
here's the thing about Magnum too. It's placed right next to Hotel Breakers,
it's right on the water.
and it's right on the
Oh,
water.
setting.
It's and so like
Yeah,
it will
great
like not only that, but like imagine like people staying in the hotel and looking out their window and seeing this big roller coaster.
Mhm.
And at some
What
point, like I don't know exactly how that could not hold like a star status in your mind. Like you're
Well, I
literally
think
going to bed
one-
with a coaster at your window, you know?
One thing that I don't think people realize too is the boardwalk. Like, there's a pathway that extends all the way back.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you can walk the entire length of that coaster, and
Which
just
we were gonna
watch
do,
it.
but you know.
And
Yeah,
then
it's
Tuttle
cool back there.
was like, hey, how you doing?
I've definitely done it before, but it's fine.
I went back there. It was cool.
But I'm going to say A tier for sure. So that puts it in A, but I would say it's a very high A tier.
I would
just don't
even be
wanna-
willing to switch it to S, but the park is just too loaded. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was at any other like Cedar Fair park,
any
it'd
other park,
probably be
S
an
all the way, dude.
Yeah.
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 So
I mean, like I said, it's my 3rd favorite ride in the park, and I think it's still better than what's coming next. But
Yeah.
Millie.
can we go to Gatekeeper next?
No, let's do
no.
Millie, dude. These are like the two
fight over Millie and get it over
Millie.
with.
These are not the only two. I'll tell you that right
like
now.
OG
Mario.
Hyper, OG Giga. Like,
Oh no, the other
two
ones are going to be
controversial
fought over, but
coasters.
they're not going to be nearly as good of coasters.
Pit them against each other, man.
All right, Millie.
Do it.
Millennium Force, the first Giga coaster ever, opened in 2000, 310 feet tall, 93 miles an hour.
Wow.
Mario, go ahead.
First of all, the first year I visited Cedar Point Magnum, I had it above, or did I? I don't know. I at certain points had Magnum above Millennium Force, because Millie is a much smoother, like less aggressive ride, but I literally can't explain why I enjoy it. It's just so fun to be going. Other than the speed, like I can't explain anything about it. Like it just carries its speed so well. It doesn't have any fantastic elements, but front row rides are just like an experience, man. I don't know how to put it. Like other than it's magical, man. That's it. Oh, I have to put it at a tier, don't I? Well,
yeah,
I'll come back to me for a tier because S tier. Why not? I'll reconsider if someone wants to change my mind. S.
All right, Zach.
Yes.
That's it.
There we go. Nice and concise. I like
Becca.
it.
Beautiful. Okay, I have it at an A, and it's
Okay.
good. It's a very, very good ride. Trust me. Like,
Terrible.
shut up. There's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you it's overhyped, it's overrated, blah blah blah.
That's
Do I
fair.
agree? Not a little bit. I think it is kind of an overrated coaster, but I also think that people don't appreciate it for what it is. And the reason I put Magnum over it is because, like you said, Magnum's a lot more intense.
Right.
It offers more, whereas Millennium, it's like you get a couple decent pops of airtime. It's overbanks. The reason I go to ride Millennium is the speed. Like if I want speed and I want sustained speed, I go for Millennium.
Cliff, are you fixing your hair with chopsticks?
Sure am. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
So, like I said, that's why I have it as an A. Like I still think it's a top tier ride. It's my number 4, but I don't think it's necessarily an S for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd put it as an A.
That's perfectly fair.
Cliff?
I agree with that sentiment.
Also, number 4 in the park for me. But here's the thing: I think Magnum and Millie both have things that I guess you could say make them very similar, in that both coasters do have elements on it that are, for lack of a better term, duds. Like both of them, every element may not hit as strongly as one would expect, and therefore they have some disappointing moments.
I don't know about that. Those
don't know about
triangles,
Magnum,
man.
like-
What do you think about those
Well, I
triangles?
think
There's
you're
like
talking
no
about
disappointing moments on Magnum, man.
There's a couple.
The
first
second
You ever
drop.
had okay, let me ask you one question though. Have you guys ever had a trimless ride on Magnum?
I think our first one
yeah, our
was,
first
dude. Our
ride.
first ride was like by far the
Because
most aggressive.
that's intense.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I had
Your
trims
leg
every
stuff.
single time.
It's cool to hear though when you go through it sometimes.
Oh,
But the thing about Millie though, and like, I know it contradicts my own ranking, but like Millie is one of the few Giga coasters in the world. Not to mention an intimate Giga coaster on our shores, and it is one of those coasters where I think it has a bit of a broader appeal just for that, but also like I said, the speed itself too. Like if you're not getting that crazy airtime, you're still going really freaking fast. Oh boy, thanks for reminding me. Well, everyone else is interrupting too, so shush, Zach.
it's probably fine. I mean, the
But
thing
yeah,
that
for me-
I like with Magnum is it's still fast, but you have more going on.
Yeah,
It's not as fast, but it's still fast, and it
yeah.
retains most of that.
Well, I would disagree. Like as far as like the first few hills are concerned, like I think Millie, though it doesn't have any incredible elements, it has good pacing just because of how fast it goes through everything.
I mean, but you still lose some of that speed on both of the airtime hills. You gain a little bit of it
well,
back,
also
but you're
it
still
depends on where
losing
you
some.
sit, because like if you're not sitting in the front row, you're not really feeling that speed. So I would definitely agree with like low A tier if I'm riding in any row other than like the first car. So like
It's not
front or
worth it
second
to
row.
wait for that line in the front.
Oh yes,
totally.
it is.
Totally.
We waited
not.
every ride except for the one we rode with you, which the middle row is like I feel like second best, and like back is just like
Okay, I
I
guess
don't
when
really
you
like that.
when you have the opportunity to ride it as much as I do, like you never want to wait.
No,
for
that's
that.
fair. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but dude, like front
So
row
Cliff,
is like
what's
just
your-
like a
what's your
religious
tier?
experience.
I think I'm gonna have to stick with S for it.
Well,
So it's S then, right?
I guess it's my turn.
Drew's a little.
A little what?
I knew
huh?
these two would be backwards.
I don't
knew
know.
it.
So, for me, Millie is the ride that I would ride if I couldn't ride anything like any other coaster in the world. Like I would just ride that over and over again. And I know it's weird because it's like not my favorite coaster. It's not the best coaster I've ever been on. It's just I don't know. There's something about the speed and just.
It's also like kind of like relaxing while being thrilling,
exactly.
which is weird and like yeah. I
But
don't
the
know.
big thing for me is it is one of 5 Giga coasters in the world, and also it was the first, and also it's smoother than Magnum.
Okay, but if you're going off of that much of like the history and the type of ride it is, then you have to give Magnum more credit than you did.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Magnum,
Like,
I don't feel
oh,
like you need to
it's
take.
first.
I don't think you need to
There's
take
only
the history of.
5.
You don't need to take the history of Magnum into consideration because of
But
how
you
good the
don't
ride
need to,
experience is
like,
on its own.
Take
Like
the
it speaks
history
for
of
itself.
Millennium into consideration either.
Well, I didn't. That Drew did. So I
That's
It's made
all
by
I'm saying.
Intamin.
But also, here's the thing with Magnum: there are what 20 hypercoasters in the world now, 25, almost 30 maybe.
sure.
And
Why
there's not very many that I'd put over Magnum.
But there's still a lot of
Manta.
experiences over 200 feet now.
Or
you know?
Mako.
And yet there's also still Gigas I'd put.
Well, and there's
over
also a lot of
Millennium.
experiences where you can get ejected.
Mako.
Thank
But
you.
there's not many experiences where you can like go what feels like 90 miles per hour the entire ride for that long too.
I mean, maybe Fury, maybe I305,
Fury.
Probably, yeah. I would have to ride.
Or Intimidator.
or
Fury's still my favorite
Leviathan.
Giga. Listen,
Fury. Or, yeah, Fury.
But
of the 3 I've been on, Fury is by far superior.
do you guys think we can tier Gatekeeper in under 7 minutes?
Yes.
Potentially.
Well, we went off about Millie for 6, so probably
Okay.
6.5.
All right. Well, let's go to Gatekeeper. Mario, you first.
Very fun, very enjoyable. Another one where it's like kind of relaxing, but also has its super like fun moments. The inversions are all great. There's positives after that first drop, and there is even decent floater airtime on the airtime hill. I would say A or B, but I'll give my official tier after I hear everyone else's arguments.
Zach?
A or B.
A or B?
Yeah.
Is that all you're going to say?
I'll do heads. If it's heads, it's A. If it's tails, it's B. Flip a coin.
Lee gets a chance.
Flip a coin. And you get the
I'm gonna
chance.
actually flip a coin.
Are you asking us to flip a coin? Here, I'll flip a
No,
No, he's asking Siri.
No,
He
I
already
was
got
He's
it.
asking Fury.
A tier.
All right. So we have 1A. Becca?
Okay, so you guys might actually find it surprising, but I do have it as an A tier coaster. I think
Really?
it's better. Yeah.
Wow.
No, I think it's better than Val Raven.
I agree.
Um,
So that's why I'm lost.
It's probably on the lower side of my A's than like way higher, but it's still a coaster that I like to go ride. It has gotten rough since its opening. Let me tell you, 2013, it was butter smooth. She's showing her age a little bit, but I mean, that wing over is something that you can't experience very often, and it's incredible. It's got an incredible location. The keyholes are amazing. Like, it's a fun ride. It's not like super thrilling, I would say, in my opinion. But again, I've ridden it so many times that like
It's graceful.
honestly, there's only like 1 or 2 coasters on this list that do still thrill me, I guess. But I would put it well above Val Raven. It's still an A tier coaster.
Okay. Cliff?
I'll say A, by the way. That's my official.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Cliff?
Well, Gatekeeper is a weird one for me because I rode it off the high of X-Flight and the disappointment of Thunderbird. And I didn't really know how to make heads or tails of of Gatekeeper. But I think, slip it in the B tier.
Okay.
Just because, like, if you were to ask me, like, well, hey, like, what would you like, you know, if Val Raven and Gatekeeper were right next to each other, which they are, and like that's the only 2 coasters you can ride. What am I saying? Oh my god, that doesn't
I
make
was
sense.
to say
Sorry.
they're not next to each other, but okay.
They're across from each other or whatever.
They're
But
like
if you could only
clear
ride one or
across
the other.
midway, and you've got another coaster in the middle, like it's fine.
I mean, I guess if I had to ride one or the other, like I'd be really hard pressed to really say which one like I would prefer, because I think I hold them both in the same regard to some extent. I mean, obviously, like Gatekeeper's longer and like is a bit more unique, and I think its uniqueness in itself is like why it would probably be like a higher B. I think I like it more than Val Raven, like a little bit more than Val Raven, just for that. But not really convinced me to like slap it in the A tier so much.
Okay. So me, huh?
You.
Well, it doesn't really matter what I say because it'll be A tier regardless. Which
I
actually,
think if you put it at D tier, it'd have to be in
well,
B.
okay.
Like if you average it out.
You know, I'm gonna say either A or B. Let's be real. But I think personally, I'm gonna say A, but it's definitely a lower A.
Mhm.
And I say that because it's really become an icon for the park, with it being, right over the front entrance. It's the first ride you see when you walk up to the front entrance. It's kind of become Cedar Point in essence for a lot of like pictures that you see of the park itself, with the the grand front entrance and the coaster going over. It's such a cool thing to have at the park.
Huh.
Yeah, Mario.
Yeah, sorry.
But also it's a
Surprised I'm the
super
one that should be yawning over here.
it's the super
Oh
solid
yeah, dang.
it's a super solid wing coaster. I've never been on a wing coaster prior to this, unless you count like X2 or Green Lantern, which I just call those 4Ds. But
Well, it's almost as good as Green Lantern.
It's
shut
better
up.
than Giant or than Wild Eagle, in my opinion. But
Okay, well I haven't been
I
there,
could imagine.
so,
Yeah.
but like I grayed out multiple times on this ride. It's still got some good floater airtime.
Can we go back to when Drew got off this ride and looked at me and said, "This is your like middle tier ride"?
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too, man. It's like
Yeah.
this is not even like in a lot of people's top fives, most people's top fives, I don't think.
Oh no!
And it's so good.
Yeah, so
It's good stuff. at
all
that
right, let's
park.
do a quick musical chairs, and we'll be back in literally like 0.2 seconds for you guys. All right, so no real musical chairs this time. Just the absence of Zach. He's just kind of disappeared.
Alley coasters. I mean, Z coasters.
But we're gonna move on with this tier list that Becca is not too pleased with, and go to Raptor, the B&M invert coaster. Where do you guys think this tier is, starting with Mario?
Sorry, I'm chewing. It's very unprofessional of me.
Well, do you want me to move to Becca, or
Yeah, it's a fun ride. It doesn't do anything that any other B&M invert that I've been on doesn't do. I mean,
Cobra Roll?
Cobra Roll is the only thing where it's like whippier.
Eh,
Corkscrews and whatnot, they're whippy, but so are all B&M invert corkscrews.
it's not even that whippy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want like
Oof.
more intensity,
Oh,
then
it
like
already hurting
Batman,
my
the rides are more
heart.
intense.
Yeah, true.
And then if you want like a unique layout, well, I like Silver Bullet has a unique layout. This one, Raptor just has like a couple of dead spots where it's like random straight track and you're just kind of like cruising along, and then it's like
God,
corkscrew, and then it's like cruising.
this hurts.
I know. I know.
Dude, the section of straight track before the Cobra Roll is just like, what is that doing there?
with
Like,
that being
I
said,
didn't,
though,
you didn't even
Mario,
notice it. I never noticed it.
God, B tier. Yeah, B
Okay,
tier.
yeah. All right.
Oh, my
Becca?
heart just got ripped out of its chest.
This is not fair that Zach isn't here now because
Yeah, now we don't have a tiebreaker.
exactly. We can text him. How about that? Maybe he'll get to us.
I mean, it's better than him just shoving his phone in the camera. So,
Shots fired.
I really like Raptor. I think it's better than some B&M inverts out there that I've ridden. Is it my favorite? No. But do I think it's still an A-tier coaster? Yes. I think it's very intense. It has one of the most intense Cobra rolls and the intense helixes that I've ever ridden for an invert.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like,
But also Silver Bullet, the helix is
Yeah,
also
Silver
very
Bullet's
intense.
Helix is more
okay,
intense.
yes.
It's the most intense
Silver
part of the
Bullet-
ride.
Yes, it's the most intense part of the ride. But the thing that I have like a gripe with, if you're going to try to compare it to other coasters, even though we're talking mostly about just the park,
Mostly.
But even in just the park, never mind. I'll go ahead.
shut up. But either way, like, yes, you could say that Batmans are more intense, but they're also smaller. They're also like the same everywhere.
Well, they're pretty different.
Okay.
The clone.
Okay.
Still pretty
There's what,
different.
one clone of Raptor out there somewhere in
But there's
another
still a
country?
clone.
France.
in another country. Like, I don't know. A Raptor is just one of those rides that I'm like, hell yeah, let's go ride. Like, I'm always pumped to get a ride on Raptor. I still think it's an A tier ride. I'd put it well over Val Raven. It's still like the lower end of my A tier. Don't get me wrong. It's not like high A tier, but it's I can't put it as a B, but
Okay.
that's just
Cliff?
See, it's in the park. It's not the most intense coaster, but it's like the entry level to it intense. I think. Like I would even argue it's probably got some parts that are more intense than Millennium Force even.
Yeah.
And
But
there's
it's not like
nothing
Millennium
like
Force is known for its intensity.
But like, I mean, if you're looking for intensity and if you're looking for something that even in the park, is iconic to that degree as well. Too, I think Raptor should be held in regard as a star attraction in the A tier, alongside with like something like Magnum. It was.
Drew, don't look at us like that. Listen, Raptor is above Gatekeeper.
Yes.
That's all.
Oh God.
Like Becca said, like there's nothing like that Cobra roll in the park. Like that Cobra roll.
Yeah, because it's the only Cobra roll in
the park. We've conceded on the Cobra roll point. I even agree that that's like the best Cobra roll I've ever been on.
Okay, I can't say it's the best Cobra roll I've ever been on.
Well,
so then why are you even putting it at A tier?
What's the best Cobra roll?
Oh, I love Dominator's Cobra roll.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that's because it's also one of the smoothest Cobra rolls out there. Silver Bullet is still the smoothest Cobra roll I've been on.
Ooh.
But
I'm leaving.
I mean, it's been 2 years no, it's been a year. It's been a year since I've ridden it, so unless it's changed in the past year.
There's like a crack in the track now.
Oh, well, see, then that's something I haven't witnessed yet.
Anyway.
You wouldn't even know what you're riding.
But if we're putting Gatekeeper in A, then Raptor has to be in A because Raptor's over Gatekeeper, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I put it above Val Raven, but I definitely put it way under Gatekeeper. Hey-o,
so if you put it at a B tier, then we need a tiebreaker.
Yeah, we need a tiebreaker.
I'm adding him and he's not responding.
Oh my gosh, dude. So yeah, I personally think it's a B just because it's a great multi-looping coaster at the park. But it's just a multi-looping coaster. It's not like anything insane. If that makes sense. Like it's not nearly as eye-catching as it was 15 years ago in comparison to all the new rides that they have, if that makes sense. So I can't say it's on the same level as Magnum.
I mean, it's good, but Val Raven's also good. Like they're just good.
Yeah, they're just good.
Good as B.
Rides.
Good as B.
I also wouldn't put Gatekeeper on the same level as Magnum, but it's
that's fair.
The different ends of the tier.
But I also said
Magnum
I was
is
willing
like
to.
high A for you guys, whereas I put it as an S, but still high A, and Gatekeeper's at like the low A, like almost B range.
Well, I mean, I even said I'd be willing to put.
So if that's the case,
I'd be willing to put Magnum at S, like I said.
Put Raptor at A, man.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna
not happening.
I'm sure no one's budging. So we're gonna wait for hopefully a tiebreaker eventually. Zach, please.
Don't need to
move on to Wicked Twister, the Intimate.
Oh boy,
Zach never responds well.
This one either.
This one's gonna be yikes. I think. Mario, go ahead.
I think it's only yikes.
It's
gonna hate on it.
I don't want to say it's trash because I'd like to just give it the benefit of the doubt that I got like bad rides on it. But I can't put it above C. I mean, I think in fairness, I'll just say like for fairness' sake, I'll say C for now.
Okay.
It was so shaky though. Like the one time we rode it last year. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the free falling sensation while you're twisting is kind of cool, but like you don't go all the way up the spikes. Like if you're sitting towards the front, you don't do anything on the back spike. If you're sitting towards the back, you don't do anything on the front spike. It's just not like diverse. It's like it doesn't do much for me, man. I mean, C tier is like me being generous for it.
Becca, go ahead.
Honest, which I understand is not popular opinion, but that's my opinion. Okay.
No, but like I'm not disagreeing. I have Twister as a C tier.
Oh, perfect.
Coaster.
So it's
like,
C tier.
Don't get me wrong. It's not at the same level as like other coasters. But your argument about like you're not doing anything on the back spike in the front seat and you're not doing anything on the front spike in the back seat is the same on every impulse except for the one that you have.
Yes, and that impulse is significantly better than all the other ones.
Listen,
it is such a good coaster.
Ridden it, so I can't compare
and Wicked Twister is not.
But you also
Dude, if you sit in the back row, you only go up the back spike once. So you ride the entire like 35 whatever second or like 45-second ride. You ride the entire 45-second ride just to go on one element. 2 if you include the launch.
But Mario.
How is that a good coaster?
Mario. Listen.
People call Val Raven a one-trick pony.
It's the same.
One-trick pony, my Tookus.
Like,
I'll agree with you on that one, Mario.
Okay.
No, I mean, I still think that Val Raven's a one-trick pony. Don't get me wrong.
It does more than one thing.
As good as
It does one thing more than Wicked
Ooh.
Twister.
two. I still don't think Twister is a bad ride. Is it up higher than a C tier? No. But I don't like your argument about you only do this and this because it's the same as every impulse.
I like that argument.
Why?
It's not the same as every impulse, and it doesn't matter. It's like, oh well, it's the same as all these other coasters that are
But
mediocre.
we're talking about it
Okay.
at Cedar Point. If we were
Yeah,
talking about it
Cedar
at
Point,
Dorney,
but like,
I mean,
either
you're
way,
putting-
every impulse I've ridden is the same, except like I haven't ridden.
but
the
like
one
at
at-
Dorney, we'd probably be like, oh, it's probably a B tier at the park.
You putting
But
it in
this is Cedar
context of
Point.
Cedar
Yeah.
Point, that
Like
actually
I said, I'm
that
not
gives me reason to put it
disagreeing
at
that it's
D.
a C tier coaster. I just don't like his argument for
Okay,
it.
Becca, you've changed my mind. I will
Alright.
now put it at a D tier.
No,
I am not joking, because Drew's right. You're putting it in context with the other coasters. at the
no.
park.
In
Cliff,
context with the
please save
park, I
us.
think it's still a C tier coaster.
Okay,
Like
teach their own, man.
it still has a decent launch in comparison
Yeah,
to some other
it does.
rides, and it's still over 200 feet. You get pretty high on either side of the spike, depending on what seat you're in.
Yeah, once
Once, okay,
in the
I mean,
back, and then
did-
twice in the
did-
front, where you can't even tell how high up you are.
The only way you
But
can really
still,
see
like,
how high you are is if you're in the front
it's
row. 'cause
still
everything else is,
exhilarating
like,
because you're not expecting
objective.
that launch to be as forceful as it is.
See, I
The
take it
backwards
as,
launch is still just as forceful. Like it's not a D tier coaster. It's not. You cannot put it with the kiddie coasters. Sorry.
I
We
was
haven't
gonna
ranked the
say-
kiddie coasters.
I was gonna say this: front row
You
of
know
Wicked
where they
Twister going up the spike at full speed there's no other lats like that in the park.
Top throw dragster.
I'm sorry. Have you been on
Sorry.
Maverick? Have you been on
Lats?
Maverick?
Yeah.
Have you been on
Maverick-
Maverick?
Maverick has a different style of lats though. Like that's like lats in
Yeah,
air
they're
time.
good.
Like Wicked Twister, it's like floater and lats at the same time, and you're like,
Oh, you're
facing
right.
the
You're
sky.
right. The difference between Lance on this ride and Lance on other rides at the park is that you don't have over the shoulder restraints to hit your head on.
That's
You
true.
have all
Sorry,
the shoulder
Maverick
restrictions
has
to make your
over
head
shoulder
on
restraints.
Maverick.
Don't go.
Dude,
On a Maverick,
come
I might hit
on.
my head, neck a little bit, but like that's all good. I got a
Mario,
tough
we're
neck.
not disagreeing that it's a C tier coaster.
No, we're disagreeing
I'll-
that it's a D tier because that's where
Oh
I'm putting
my
it now.
I would not put Wicked Twister and Corkscrew in the same ranking. I would.
No, same.
I cannot.
I would, man. Like they're two of the worst coasters I've
No.
been on.
Okay, I will concede to this with Mario. I think it in the park lineup it is comparatively a little bit uninspired.
Yes, thank you.
I agree with that. I don't think the experience, though, at least my experience and probably Becca's experience too, especially in the front row or in the very back, like would be something that I would say is as bad as a kiddie coaster or even as corkscrew in the D tier. Like it's there, it's probably gonna get ripped out at some point. Then
Well,
they will never have to worry about this coaster ever again.
I don't think it has to do with I actually don't even think it has to do with like the rides that we got on it because I literally rode it with Becca in like the third row or whatever, and she enjoyed it and I did not. So I think it's just
I mean,
difference
I
of opinion.
prefer the front, but
Yeah.
you didn't want to wait.
But you
for
still
it.
had fun on the ride that we had, and I didn't. I don't want to ride it again, quite frankly. I will to give it a
That's
chance.
fine.
All right. So what do you rank it or tier it? Sorry.
Oh, C for sure.
See. So we have 2 C's and a D.
Yeah, I switch it to D because it's in context of the park.
We can't have another tie.
See, but my argument is looking forward. If you guys are going to put that as a D and then try to put anything else that I have as a C as a D, like I'm out. I'm walking away. Like
I will say, I think like looking at, not to spoil anything, I think that's the last D tier ride. we
Yeah.
have.
Besides probably like the kiddie coasters. Yeah.
Or like what,
I was
Cedar
about
Creek?
to say.
No. Sorry.
Wait, Iron Dragon?
Okay, fine. C, sure. Yeah. Okay. C. Fine. Final answer.
Listen.
C. Whatever.
All right. Well, Mario, if you're gonna say C, I'm openly gonna say D. So.
Oh God.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. For me,
yeah. Just for like tiebreaker's sake, I feel like I'm closer to C than any of you guys are to D. So
I
just for
Yeah.
fairness, I feel like it works out.
I was incredibly bored by it.
That's the other thing. Yeah, I mean, like even if it didn't hit my head, I was sleeping.
Well,
on it.
I mean, it still broke records if we want to bring that point up, because that seems to come up every time we're talking about a record-breaking coaster.
about good.
I don't care
good
about it. I care about the
coasters.
ride experience.
I mean, that came up a couple times.
I don't care about the records it broke. I
It's
care about the
also-
head that it broke.
It's also what, like 20 feet taller than the other highest impulse,
Yeah, I mean, it's like whoop-de-doo. You're
Listen, it puts us at 6
and you don't
coasters
even
over
get that
park.
extra 20 feet because the launch isn't fast enough to get up that high. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I didn't care for it.
I'm
It's
glad
just,
that Cliff is on my side for
I-
most of
I-
it.
I think you put this ride at any other Cedar Fair park, it would do much better. We're talking
Yeah.
potentially even B tier for a lot of these parks. But like at Cedar Point, it is just filler.
I
now.
agree. It doesn't
I'm
even really
scared
need to
to
be at
see
the
what your
park.
guys' C tier legitimately is. If you guys are putting this as a D, it's
Val
still
Raven.
pretty
I mean, not
thrilling in
Val-
comparison to
Yeah.
some other coasters in this
But
park.
we're talking about Cedar Point. I would argue
Yeah,
Cedar
no, I
Point
said
has
it's more thrilling than some of the coasters in this park.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, it's more thrilling, but
Doesn't mean
also,
it's
like,
as
more
good.
painful. Anyway, it's C tier. Let's move on. We
All
can
right.
disagree and still be friends.
Let's argue
Everything is
some
fine.
more with Top Thrill Dragster.
Oof.
Wow, wouldn't it be great to have Zach for this one? At least we won't have a tie this time.
Yeah, probably. So Mario, go ahead.
I think it's very, very fun. I think had I not been on Accelerator prior to it, I think I probably would have been blown away, quite frankly. I rode it once in the front row, once in the middle, once in the back, so I've gotten like the full spectrum of experiences one time. And while I think it's good, it's just so short. I prefer longer rides. And the launch is not as intense as Accelerator.
But
It's
we're
faster.
talking about this park.
Still not as intense as Maverick. Oh,
I
sorry.
know. I'm saying
Oh.
why like I don't enjoy it as much as I potentially could have.
Well, that's fine. Like, I don't disagree on that point, but
So I feel like I genuinely feel like it's middle tier in the park for me. So I'm gonna go like B, because like I generally have it like similarly ranked to Val Raven. Just like it
Interesting.
doesn't do a whole lot for me. Like the height is awesome, but like you can only take it in for like 2 seconds. So it's like, and then the drop is like insanely tall as well, but you don't really notice it because of the fact that you're spinning down it.
Feels like an inversion.
Yeah, which is like really great laterals and it's like a really, really cool drop, but I would just prefer it to take like advantage of the height. You know what I mean? So I'd say B tier.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Becca.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna go off the same thing that we did with other coasters, there's only 2 of these in the world, man.
Mhm.
Just putting that out there. And this is definitely the better of the 2. In
It's
terms
better
of
than
strata coasters,
probably, yeah.
There's
Oh, okay.
3.
there's only 2.
Hello. Superman's 415 feet tall. Thank you very much.
It's not a full circuit coaster. I don't count it.
It's still
It's
415
not.
feet tall.
Do you even hit 415 feet though?
Sometimes.
Let's be real.
Well, not, of course not, but you don't hit, you hit like 119 on Top Thrill Dragster.
Feet.
Because
High.
there's the little weather rod on the
Smells proud.
side that goes a little higher. You know, we're just trying to piss you off at this point, right?
Yo, I know.
Okay.
Point being, there's only 2 full circuit strata coasters on planet Earth, right? And this is definitely the better of the 2. I mean, yes, it's short. Is it more of a one-trick pony than Val Raven? Probably. But I still think that it's much better than Val Raven.
Which is fair.
I can't in my like moral being put this coaster below Gatekeeper. Listen, it's
Well, but you're
still one
not
of
putting
the
it on the
only
tier
coasters-
based on where the other stuff on the tier already is. It's like where you put it
but
personally.
that's part of what it is like I can't say that it's worse than Gatekeeper. And I don't disagree on putting Gatekeepers in A. I just think that Dragster is an A coaster.
Okay.
It's fast. Yes, it's short. It's it's still pretty intense for the park. In terms of a launch, it's definitely more intense than Wicked Twister.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll
and,
agree with that one.
The height is incredible. Like, you get a couple seconds, and I mean, it also depends on the type, like, when you ride it. You're going to get times where you fly over the top. But there are those times that you, like, creep over the top, and you get a pretty good view. It is spectacular, let me tell you. But it's still one of the only coasters in the park that actually, like, I don't want to say scares me, because it doesn't scare me. I'll ride it whenever. But it still, like, gets me kind of jittery, like, oh, my gosh, this is happening type deal.
That's fair.
You know? Like, I still think it's more of an A tier coaster than a B.
Okay. Cliff?
Well, I haven't ridden it, Because
That is true.
The glorious Intamin gods decided it was not my time.
It's not worth waiting for, let me tell you that.
No, it is not. Especially not the 2+
Mario,
hours
you
that we
okay?
waited for to open.
But there's also really only like one coaster
There's
worth waiting for
Dragster.
in the park.
You just turned into
Sorry.
a robot, like full on.
Am I better now?
No.
No.
All right. So while we have technical difficulties with Mario's mic deciding to go kaput, Cliff, go on.
Oh, just like how the Intamin gods decided that Untitled Chapter would be down and go kaput, and I was there. I have to think of it as, I guess, the criteria that I sort of hold towards Millie as it being unique. It's the way that Becca made the same point, that it's it's one of the 2 full circuit strata coasters in the world. Not to mention one of the few coasters that hasn't launched that fast, or even hitting that speed.
Yeah, there's only what 3 coasters that go that fast in the world.
Well, don't dump on this thing. I mean, we can go.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. Oh, doesn't. Oh, yeah. All right, go on.
Hold
Sorry.
on.
But like, even just its optics and how iconic it is, that in itself, I would almost want to put it in S tier.
Okay.
However, I like, having not ridden it, I can almost imagine exactly what it'd be like just from what I've heard you guys say about it, and just like what I experienced with Accelerator, or even Millie, or like Wicked Twister. Like, I kind of get the gist of what it would do, and that in itself would probably personally make me move it down to A tier, just because it's all bark and no bite, I guess you could say, or at least it's all bark but like a subtle bite.
Okay.
I mean, it's still going to be a coaster that, like, the first time you ride it, it's going to blow you away because of just the sheer speed.
If you
of
haven't
it.
ridden an Intamin Accelerator before.
Okay, but we're talking about this park. It's still going to blow you away at this park if you've never ridden something anywhere like it.
Yes.
And most people, if you think about in this general area, which is the majority of our population that we get coming in, have never seen anything like nearly as crazy as this. Also,
It's
as a
an eye
note,
catcher like Val Raven, but,
Top Thrill Dragster is still the 3rd fastest coaster in the world. So
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
there's only
Okay.
2 above it.
All right. So, Cliff, what's your tier?
I mean, I feel comfortable snugging it into an A for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's too darn iconic, There really is nothing like it, but also like in the park, but like also like, yeah, I get like that doesn't always mean it's a winner, But I mean, Becca, is it like really marathonable?
If there's no line, I mean, I'd say potentially.
Is there ever no line?
Yes, certain parts of the day.
Because I've only ever had to wait for it, like the 3 rides I got.
I mean,
it was miserable with it breaking down all the time, and just the fact that so many people want to go on.
I mean, yeah, that's part of the thing that you're gonna have to deal with it. It's one of those things. It's an attention grabber. It's the tallest coaster, and it's the tallest ride in the park. It's taller than most skyscrapers around here. Like, it's the tallest structure in this city. Like,
right.
It's going to get a line because everyone's gonna be like, oh my gosh, 120 miles an hour. Oh my gosh, 420 feet. Like, there's nothing like it anywhere around here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can catch it on a day where either it's not busy and there's no line, or you're waiting like 10 minutes, or if it's like right after it breaks down, I would ride it multiple times in a row. Or if they just let me sit on, like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I would ever turn down a ride on Dragster.
It's impressive how smooth it is for how fast it goes. I'll say that.
Especially compared to King to Ka, but that's another story.
Well, so Becca, are you saying officially A, right?
Yes.
So AAB. So realistically, for me, I would have to. I'm struggling between S and A, believe it or not.
No,
even though
it's
I
not
wasn't,
an S.
I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the coaster, but I was definitely the first
You
time
told
we
me
rode it.
after we got off, you said that ride was awful.
I did not
Okay.
say that.
I remember the first time you guys said you got off of it and you were just like, oh, I can't believe I got to ride it. Like, I was blown away.
But
Well,
the
we
thing
can't
is,
believe we got to ride it because it was closed the entire time we were there, and we left like 2 hours
Hey, I
before our
did
flight
warn
home.
you guys that
Yeah.
it was going to be closed for most of that time.
But I think that's why I was like super jazzed after riding it. But also another reason I was because there is really nothing like that besides like King Ka in the world. You know, a full circuit over 120 mile an hour, over 400 foot tall coaster. So I think that's like a huge deal, honestly, because you've only got 2 coasters in the world like that, which is really cool. But like ride experience wise, I'd say it's maybe an A. You know, it's
S or A though, it's still A tier overall, I think. Right?
yeah, it would be
Averaged out.
A regardless. But I think I'm gonna say A probably. But it's I don't know. It is a real icon of the park, though, for sure. All right, do you think we can do Steel Vengeance in 6 minutes?
Yeah,
If we can't,
probably.
I'd be offended.
I feel like
True.
I feel like there
I
needs no explanation. We could all just go down the line
Okay,
with the
should we do it on the
lettering
count of 3?
All right,
All
on the
right.
count of 3, let's all say what tier Steel Vengeance is.
Okay.
1,
1,
2.
2, 3. Oh wait, it's
S.
wait, S.
Oh.
behind.
No,
No, it's
I'm pretty sure we're all gonna
easily
say
the
S,
best
right?
coaster in that park.
S tier,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I might as well.
I mean, come
I
on.
mean, Mario
come on,
might fight
guys.
me on that statement, but it's fine.
I mean, it's tough between that and
Zach
Maverick,
would be
but,
the
like,
one to fight you, believe it or not.
I
I'm
think
also
Zach would still say S.
highly biased of this ride too. But that's
Regardless
just
of
'cause I
whether or
was
not you think
on-
it's the best ride you've ever been on, it's an S tier. Like,
Oh well,
easily.
100%.
like even
I
though
still
even
think
like
it's
the
the best
slowest ride I
ride,
ever
though.
had on it is still fantastic. So
I mean,
yeah,
it's
S.
it's my number one. Becca, is it your number one?
Oh, 100%.
Cliff,
Number 1.
Mario.
Classified.
Oh right, we gotta
It's
wait
S
for that
tier,
video.
dude. It's
We
S
gotta wait
tier,
for
man.
that video.
So is he doing
Um,
a rank video?
Yes, he is.
It's number 1 at Cedar Point. In
Listen,
my video
that
I did put out,
ride
so.
is a beautiful ride.
Yes.
It's something that we've, at least everybody around here that works at the park, has watched been built basically from the ground up before it was announced. And like I had to see it from a distance because obviously I was still in California at the time it was being built, but just having the experience to work that ride and like open that ride basically, and like I wasn't there for that. I was at school still. But just it's such like a huge thing for the park, and it's such a good ride. I don't know. It holds a special place in my heart with everything that I've done. It's still probably the best view if you ever go to the top of a lift, like on a lift walk. It's the best view in the park.
It's probably the most nonstop ride I've ever been on.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I hate working it now, but like I never want to go back to working it. But let me tell you, those test rides in the morning were some of the most glorious rides of my life. Except the front row. The front row's trash.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh boy.
Trash.
the
Okay, there's
best-
not a single
the
bad seat on that
Best
coaster.
seat on
but-
that ride is row 11, load side.
Yeah.
Thank me later.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah,
still great in every
That was the
single
best ride I
row.
had on it. Was
My,
that
my,
seat.
I'll say
11.
this much.
Calling front
I-
row
I-
trash is just so
That's kinda-
absurd.
yeah.
Okay, also
comparatively
the couple
to-
rides
ugh.
that I got in the front, every single time we slowed down in the block. So
Oh, well, that's probably why then, because the second half is what makes that ride Steel Vengeance.
right. I mean, the very first time I rode it in the front, it was a test ride, and we basically almost got stopped in the block. Like it couldn't do that, but it trimmed it so hard, and the rest of the ride was just such a drag in the front.
Dirt.
But again, it was a test ride on an empty train, basically. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to take another musical chair sesh because
Do-do-do-do.
Zoom is kicking us out again.
How many parts is this video about to be split up? into?
Probably
Let's say, have fun editing this video.
It's actually not that bad.
I was gonna
but,
say it's not that hard. It's like 3 cuts.
Yeah.
That's
but
why it's
I'm-
going to be like 2 hours long.
We'll be back in half a second. All right, we're back. Yay. So we're gonna try and time limit this because we
Gatekeeper's better than Raptor.
No, it's not.
Oh yes, it is. Okay.
Disappointment.
So
Wrong.
speaking of
Zach
B&Ms,
agrees.
Speaking
Wrong.
of B&Ms, Rougarou. This one's gonna cause some controversy. I know it.
I hope.
Oh
not.
yeah.
Mario, go ahead.
'A tier, easy.
Oh, whoa!
It's my favorite B&M in the park,
Whoa.
or second favorite B&M. It's
I'm just shook over here.
It's better than Val Raven. It's better than Raptor. I'll tell you that. It's way more unique.
No.
I mean, yeah.
The
no, I can
forces
agree.
in the incline loop. The
No.
incline loop is so good.
The
It has
incline
multiple
loop?
whippy transitions towards the end
those
in
are
that weird
great.
like twister section.
Oh,
It's surprisingly
wow.
fun,
That's-
and
so that's two
it's smooth
things
in the
that
back
Raptor
row.
does.
It's smooth in the back row.
I
I
always
don't.
come off that ride with a headache.
Well, have you ever ridden in the back row? You doofus?
Yes, I've ridden in every
Dude, it was
single
so
row.
smooth in the back row. I literally don't know. And I complain
maybe
about
get,
Scream
like-
being rough at
I
Magic.
get maybe like 1 or 2 good rides a season on that ride, but it's not something
Okay,
I ever say I want to go
Maybe-
ride.
maybe
All right,
we just
I'm
rode
gonna
it-
put
maybe
the
we
hammer
rode
down.
it-
I'm gonna put the hammer down. It's
Maybe we rode it on the
Mario's
best days
time.
possible.
It's
I don't know.
Mario's
It's a
time.
B tier coaster at best.
A tier.
So Becca, okay. All right,
That
Cliff,
was
go
100%.
ahead.
I am gonna. Okay, I agree with some of the things Mario says. I also agree with a lot of things with what Becca says, because not every ride was that great when I had on it. It is really fun, but it was kind of hit or miss for me. I'm gonna have to put it at a B.
Okay.
I definitely think that earlier in the day it was running terrible, and I've heard other ops say the same thing before, that it's like it's almost unbearable to test ride in the morning. But like, okay, back row night rides are really great. So like, I have to give like the good and the bad for it. Like, I went in between sort of, and I mean, everything you listed, Mario, it's like it's stuff that Raptor does, and I like Raptor more. Sorry, so yeah, it's a B.
I mean, Raptor doesn't have an incline loop, so.
But
I
Mantis
feel
was
like-
still 10 million times better than.
Well,
River
Becca, go
ever
ahead,
will
give
be.
us a quick.
straight track.
Becca, are you gonna stick to your guns with B?
If I
Or-
could, I would put this ride at like the bottom of every list because it's one of my least favorite coasters I've ever been on.
Okay.
Ooh.
Just saying.
Jeez, the rivalry is real.
But yes, a B is satisfactory. And I know a lot of people out there, at least of my friends and personal, knowings, would put it at a B.
Okay. So personally,
Mario,
for me,
I never like mocked you on anything else.
No, I know, and you're putting
So
it at a B
mean.
tier, which is like not even what you think of it. So yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Like, I'm surprised that you guys aren't like, oh my gosh, you're not putting it at like C. Like,
I like.
I'll give it
defending
the
this
benefit
coaster.
of the doubt.
Okay,
but it's
thank you. I
not
appreciate
that good. It's not anywhere near an A tier ride, in my opinion.
I rank it over Gatekeeper.
I don't. Oh, I
And Val Raven.
know.
so
That's fair. I think
Bottom of
that's
my
fair.
list.
my turn to talk because we're trying to get through this quick, guys. Remember,
Eh.
Rougarou is my favorite floorless coaster, hands down.
How many have you ridden?
5.
It's mine as well.
So
Out of
And it's still your
Fine.
favorite?
yeah, by far. But
Oh my god.
it's
no.
not
Where's-
better than
where's-
Gatekeeper in my opinion.
Where's my Superman crew at?
But it is better
I'm not
than
ready.
Val Raven
Dominator.
and Raptor. But I'm gonna say personally B tier. It's a supporting coaster. It's a great supporting coaster, at least in my opinion. It is made to be support, and that's really what it does very well at the park. So
That's
I'm gonna
fair.
say B. So that I think that's B, right?
That's
I
fair.
guess, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mario. I love
It
it.
could be
too.
worse. It could be worse. So I'm not too upset.
I love it too, but it's not. I don't know. I can't put it up there with like Magnum or Gatekeeper. Or
Hey
Top
man,
Thrill.
I don't care if other people don't like it. That means whenever I go back, I'm gonna get however many.
I
Rides
mean,
I
have
want.
you? There are so few days I've ever seen that ride with a line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
so
There's
I'm
no
not.
line
I'm
rides
not
with it.
complaining about that. So.
Like, it's not that good.
Next up one that we're probably gonna argue a little less about, Maverick. The
Oh,
Intimate
I wouldn't
Influence
argue
coaster.
anything with this one.
So Mario, go ahead.
It's so good. It's fantastic. It does like pretty much everything you'd want in a coaster. The inversions are the weakest part of the ride, but even then they're not like bad. So it's good. It's great. It's great.
Okay, Cliff.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it switched.
I was
It
so used
switched,
to going
Becca.
second,
Yeah, no, I'm
so I didn't know that.
I am going to say S, but I'm going to say that there are things about Maverick that make it almost A tier experiential wise. However, again, I'm trying to stay true to my criteria in the past. What if I put S tier in the past before? Rides that are unique, interesting, one of a kind, something you're not going to find anywhere else in the world, iconic. Yeah, I'm sure Maverick Heights is not iconic, but the experience and what it does have to offer is. It's just the buzz kills. Some of the buzz kills, man. But it's an S.
Okay. Becca?
Hands down, second best ride in the park. Always an S.
I agree with that.
Like-
Second best ride coaster I've been on.
See, I can't say that,
Yes.
but
Well, you've also been to, like Carowinds and Dollywood and, all these other
Silver
major
Dollar.
parks. Yeah.
and-
So where I've got California,
Dominion.
a little bit of Texas, and then Cedar Point. So, all right.
We
That was-
agreed. High five.
That's why I'm so shook on the floorless thing, because like you need to experience Dominator.
No.
I love Dominator with all my heart. But
That's nice.
Next up is
I'm
Cedar
not sure
Creek
you're gonna
Mine
fight me on
Ride.
this one too.
I'm
Cedar
actually
Creek
going to
Mine
go
Ride?
first this time because I just want to, speed this up a little bit. I'm going to say C tier. I don't think it's a bad ride. It's a family coaster. It's a perfect family coaster. Well, not perfect, but like it's your second coaster.
Mine trains can get more uncomfortable than that. So.
Yeah, that is true. So that's all I'm going to say. So C tier for me, Mario.
C tier, and I won't really be upset wherever you guys put this on the list as long as it's not S or A. So yeah.
Cliff?
D for me. It just wasn't really doing it for me.
I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Becca?
It's forever a C in my heart.
Okay.
That
So,
was the first ride I ever worked, so she's got a special place in my heart.
I mean, it's not like a bad ride for what it is necessarily. It's a little janky, a little weird.
Here's my thing with this ride, because I will defend this ride to my dying day, because it is a coaster for kids that are tall enough to ride Gemini, but too scared to ride Gemini. It's a starting coaster. It's a good starting coaster for a lot of kids.
Well, if you want to work your way up to Gemini, you should feel a little bit of aero jank before getting on it.
There's like a tier of like how I suggest kids ride stuff before they get to like certain rides. And it's always going to be like, for the arrows at least, Mine Ride, Iron Dragon, Corkscrew, Gemini, Magnum.
For the arrows, I think that
Like that's your level
pretty
of
good,
like
just-
working your way up.
Just no corkscrew, but yeah.
I mean, you should still ride it.
Nah, you shouldn't.
You don't have to put it in there, but I think people should ride it. Everyone should at least experience every coaster in the park at least once in their lifetime.
Fair.
I'd even argue twice.
Okay, I could get rid of Corkscrew for twice.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fair.
I could have decided to not ride it, and I would have been just as happy.
Honestly,
All right. Anyway,
ride it-
we agreed. Let's just be happy about that.
Yeah, I
I
know.
ride Corkscrew once this season just to say I've ridden it.
Now, this one is going to be a little weirder, I think. Gemini. Mario,
Yes.
go ahead. Mario,
Come
go
back
ahead.
to me. Let me think about it. Let me hear
Okay,
arguments.
Cliff?
Oh, in my heart, it's forever an S tier. I loved Gemini so much. Realistically, I would be fine if it was if it somehow managed to end up in the B tier. I understand it's a supporting coaster. I understand that its jank is not going to win everyone's hearts over. I love the dueling aspect of it, and I mean, that is once again something else the park is offering that it doesn't have anywhere else in the park, anyways. So I mean, but that's not enough to really, I think, allow it to be iconic. I mean, I think some major historians are going to say it's incredibly iconic, for XYZ reason, but
There's a good reason why it's iconic, but
but yeah, I mean, in its current lineup, I think it's a solid supporting coaster for a B. For me, a high B. Honestly, in my heart, though, again, it's an S. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Becca?
in my heart, this is 100% an A coaster. But obviously, I know you guys are going to fight me on this one. Gemini is legitimately one of the only rides that I've found at this park to be genuinely marathonable.
Yeah,
both in terms
I
of
agree.
being able to get back in line quickly and just wanting to ride it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's smooth. Like, it's still smooth if you sit in the right rows. Honestly, wheel seats of any coaster, you're just not gonna have a good time. But
Oh,
this ride
okay.
is smooth. It is so much fun. If it's, racing, it's even more fun. There's quite beautiful, like, floater airtime on this ride.
Mhm.
Some of it can be ejector. There's one particular drop out of one of the horseshoes with a head chopper element, which is one of my favorite
Yeah, have a
like
good head
drops on
choppers.
almost any coaster.
Yeah.
And it's just such a fun ride. Like, if you want a pure fun ride, you go to Gemini. So in my heart, it's an A. Am I gonna be mad if you guys put it at B? A little bit, but that's
I'm
only
gonna say B tier just because it's a little bit rough in the back wheel seats, and while it
It's-
does have like really good drops and I love the racing aspect, it's just a little one note for me, and that's all I'll say because we've gone hell along.
it's fine. I'm just passionate about Gemini.
So
but
B
it's
for me.
So for me, I'm with Cliff. In my heart, it is an S tier. One of my favorite coasters at the park. One of my favorite coasters of all time. Like, personally, just in my heart, it's fantastic. Super fun. Just the interactions you can get with other people on the ride are unparalleled. I mean, Money Train, hello. Um, like, that was some of the most fun times I had at the park, was riding Gemini, which is really weird. But I think, as far as coaster goes, like the actual coaster itself and like where it sits in the lineup of the park, I'm kind of torn between B and A. Very high B, like low A for me personally. So that's why I'm kind of torn, because it's like I don't think I could put it above like Magnum, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, it's definitely better than Val Raven or Rougarou, and I think it's even more of a standout coaster than those two in the lineup, just because it does have that dueling aspect. Well, what did you guys say, Mario? What did you say,
B.
Cliff,
I'll settle on a B.
Becca?
I mean, I'm more of an A, but I'm also very biased with this coaster.
Yeah, no, I would love to say A. I think I'm gonna go with B, just so we don't have another tie. But in my heart, that is for sure an S.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily mad about it, but if you want to talk about iconic, it is, well, I guess was Ron Toomer's favorite coaster to create.
And I can't
Yeah.
blame him on that.
Yeah, totally.
No.
It is still an iconic ride.
And it's still super fun, super enjoyable. A little janky in some portions, but like, that's just old Arrow for you.
And like I said, I'm biased because I met Jake there, so I rode it 1.5 million times in 2017. So like,
Yeah.
I was always at that coaster.
Yeah.
So now, Iron Dragon is our next coaster. Let's start with Mario.
I'll say C tier. Like, it's fun and enjoyable. It's just like nothing too intense, and obviously that's not what it's meant to be. But just it doesn't hit all the things that I want a coaster to. But I have no problems with it, so it is a C tier.
Okay. Cliff?
See, Iron Dragon played itself up to be something more than it actually was for me. And I was severely disappointed by it at the end. And what are you doing, Drew?
Don't worry about it. Keep going. Keep going.
See, I didn't expect it to be anything special, so.
And I mean, I would, because like Ninja and the Bat played it up. Suspended coasters enough for me at that point. And I also didn't really see any POVs prior to going into it. And then when I just did it, like you said, it wasn't really intense. I mean, if D tier had to be a place where you throw coasters that you could live without, I would put Iron Dragon in there. But I also understand in the lineup of the park, it does hold a certain place that, I'm sure Becca could argue, is where kids can get on it and stop, just stop.
Sorry.
Okay, maybe not go that far.
That's just for stop tier, Drew.
Ooh.
I don't know. This is another one of those ones where, like, in my heart it was a D, but like I also can see it being. I know it's really actually a C tier.
Okay. Becca?
It's a step upper.
Okay, so this was my baby last year, and I completely agree. It is a C tier coaster. As much as I love it, as much as I hype it up, because it's still a good ride for what it is, I understand like it's not the best ride in the park.
Okay, like C doesn't
And
mean
I'm-
it's bad.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's bad, but
No, it
I
just
also
means it's
understand
more-
where it's placed in the lineup of the rides. Like,
Yeah.
I love operating it. I love having it as my ride as a team leader. It was a great ride to have, especially as my first team leader ride. Like, it's a genuinely great coaster. It's also one of the most reliable coasters in the park. Just
Oh,
as
yeah,
a side
that.
note.
I mean,
And
Arrow.
the helix over the water is gorgeous. But I mean, yes, in the rankings of the coasters, it's a C tier coaster. It's a kid coaster. That's what it is.
So I
What
put it
was
in
meant to
C.
be.
Because I would say C as well, and I think we're all in agreement with that. It's
Yeah.
your like second, maybe third coaster in the park that you'd ride, probably third, behind like
I would say fourth.
Fourth. I mean, if you
Which-
count both kiddie
because-
coasters, yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna say you've got
It's
two
a
kiddie
very
coasters.
good middle ground.
Yeah, it's a great family coaster. The only problem I have with it being a family coaster is the height requirement's a little high for it being a family
Yeah.
coaster.
What is it, 54, Becca?
42 or 48.
48.
which
Yeah,
is
it's
still
on the
like
higher side
two.
for like
I also
kids.
feel like-
It's definitely on the higher side, and I don't like that. I know that other suspendeds have a lower height requirement, but
I also,
every
I-
single arrow in the park in terms of coasters is 48 inches.
see, the thing is, like, I don't ever imagine Iron Dragon being advertised in its history as like a kids coaster. I think it was just like a tacit agreement amongst like parks goers that eventually did become a kiddie coaster, because comparatively to what everything else has been rolled out in the park since then, it's like,
But I mean, when it came out, it was still, the most thrilling thing in the park, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
right.
But over time, obviously, as things evolve, it slowly has become a kiddie
a
coaster.
family coaster. Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it's definitely not the best suspended I've ever been on.
Yeah.
But it is the current longest one that exists in the world. If you
Mhm.
wanted a fun fact, it's also the same amount of track as Top Thrill Dragster.
Oh,
There
that's
you
kind of
go.
sad.
I mean, yeah, in
Um,
retrospect, it's also there's only two coasters in the park that have two separate lift hills, and it's that and
and
Ride.
Mine Ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
I
fun facts.
I don't know. The back's actually kind of fun. It's not like crazy intense or anything
love
like
the
that,
back.
but it's definitely more intense than the front. But yeah. So C. Next, we have an official ranking for Raptor.
Oh,
Zach
thank you,
said-
Zach. I told you guys.
Zach
I freaking
said
told you.
C tier. He didn't
I
say
told
A.
you.
He
I
didn't say
told
B.
you.
He said C tier.
I told you he does
Yikes.
not like it as much as
He's
Gatekeep.
dumb. Okay.
How dare you?
Listen.
Also, there needs to be something else in D tier. What is Wicked Twister still doing in C? But that's
I
besides the point.
know. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the kiddie coasters. Okay. This
Can any of
one's,
us even
Well, I think
rank
we
this
can
one?
all agree on the next.
None of
two.
us have been on it.
I have.
Wait, which
Oh.
one?
I've been
Oh,
a
the
wilderness
two kiddie
run.
coasters?
I haven't
Oh,
been
never
on
got to-
either of them.
I
Yeah,
rode
neither
Wilderness
have
Run when it was Junior Gemini. So
Well,
as
that's
a
what this
kid, when I
picture's
was
from,
tall enough to ride
apparently.
it.
So
Oh.
Oh yeah, and then I rode it 2 years ago, I think, when my family came into the park, and I had my cousins and my little sister who were small enough that I was able to ride with them.
Would you say it's fair to call it D tier?
Oh yeah,
I think
both
we're
of those
all
two
in
coasters need to go into D.
Okay, I think
like,
we're all
they're-
in agreement with that, though.
I don't know about
They're
Woodstock.
good for what
Woodstock
they
is
are.
Woodstock is better. But yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna complain.
I
about
wouldn't
it
But
being
you
D.
can't
Put
compare
Woodstock
Woodstock
over
to. Yeah, no.
I wouldn't put it over D. It's definitely still higher than Corkscrew in terms of what I'm gonna go ride.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, it's like
But-
nice, smooth, enjoyable. Has a little bell on the front. That kind of actually gets annoying. Okay, those can both be D. Then I'm not
Cliff,
upset
are
with
you
that.
in agreement with both of these being D?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Honestly.
did you ride them?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
The only time I
agree.
ever went to that side, the only time I ever went to that area of the park, I was to try to get more photos of Millie.
That's fair.
So
Yeah, like they're both really good coasters for what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Intamin's first coaster
Ever
with
coaster,
Wilderness Run.
yeah.
Well, I think it should be
It's
S tier because it's
very
historic.
janky. Oh my god. Listen, it's a janky coaster. I'll
Hey,
give it
without
that.
it, we wouldn't have Millie or Maverick. So
Exactly. And I mean, Wilderness Run, or not Wilderness Run, Woodstock Express, sorry. It's fun. It's a lot more intense than you think it is once you actually get on the ride. But I mean, it's still, it's a kid
mean,
coaster. Like
I've
it's
been on a
meant
lot
to
of
be for kids.
those Vekoma roller skater models, and they're all
Yeah.
a little surprisingly intense in portions.
It's
I was gonna
smoother.
say, I think
than
this is the
most
best
of
one
them.
I've been on so far.
Yeah, I'd say Hippogriff is better, but that's because
That's made
Though.
by
it's
Oh
not even the
Mach.
same
shoot,
thing, is
you're
it?
That's
right.
not-
I
Yeah.
forgot about Hippogriff.
But
That's
it's
not made
it's
by
kind of similar to
Vekoma.
that. Like it's
But still,
smooth
it's
and it rides
similar.
similar to that, and it's just not as intense.
It goes like 6 miles an hour quicker, and you kind of gray out.
6 miles per.
Either way, they're both D tier coasters. Let's
Okay.
move on.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, final coaster. We finally made it after 3 different Zoom calls.
That was too loud of a clap. Sorry.
Blue
everybody.
Streak, the wooden coaster at the park,
Ooh.
the only wooden coaster at this park with 17 coasters.
What are you
First
talking about? Steel
coaster
Vengeance,
of the
Gemini,
park
Cedar
that
Creek
still
Mine Ride.
exists.
This park has so many wooden coasters.
This is the oldest coaster to still exist at the park too.
Which is crazy. Crazy. Mario, you want to go ahead and start us off on our final coaster?
It's a very solid ride. It has good air time in the front row. I think it's best. It kind of hops along the track like a old PTC coaster does,
Yeah.
and I like that. And I say B tier.
Okay. Cliff?
If I would have gotten more rides on it, I would probably say B tier as well. I don't really know why I didn't feel so compelled to go on it any more than that. But just based off of my one ride on it and it's standing in the park, I would have to kind of say it's like a C, like a high C, if anything.
It's fruit punch.
I mean, it did have some fun, like little airtime moments. It wasn't like mind blowing at all. I'm sure a night ride's a lot better. It was rough. It had some jank to it, but like I don't know. Like if I had to put it in the same tier with Wicked Twister, at least the way I value Wicked Twister, I'm sure you guys already are cringing, as I can see Mario cringing a little bit on that. I would be okay with it being there.
So B, C, right?
C.
Becca?
I personally don't like old PTCs usually.
Okay.
I also just really hate the restraints on this ride. But for me, it's
Yeah.
never anything that I'm compelled to ride, except on really random days where I'm like, I want to ride Blue Streak. Well, let's just go ride Blue Streak. And for me, it's definitely not on the same level. Like I can't put it up with Gemini or Raptor, which you guys are crazy for. Even Rougarou or Val, like to me, it's still a C tier coaster. It's definitely the highest C tier coaster on there, probably.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I'd probably put it over Wicked Twister at this point, but still, like, I can't put it higher than a high C.
Okay. So I actually agree with that. I think C, high C. But it's another one of those rides that has suffered with it being older. Just
Yeah.
because it used to be a high thrill attraction, and now it's kind of just a family coaster with some airtime. It was my first PTC Woody. Which was awesome. I thought that was awesome to finally get on a coaster with, PTC trains at least.
Dude, by the time I got on it, I was so sick of PTC.
I feel that.
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
mean-
say that probably affected, like the fact that you went on so many wooden coasters on your trip probably affected your
Yeah.
opinion on it greatly.
But like
Yeah.
personally, it wasn't anything crazy special. I was actually anticipating this ride to be a little better than it was. But the airtime is good, but it's not
Mhm.
like, whoa.
It's little pops here and there.
Yeah, and I mean, I sat in the recommended seats, both in front and back, and it was a solid, fun ride, and yet at the park, it's still a C tier. A solid, fun ride is a C tier at Cedar Point. It's still kind of insane to me. So there you have it, though. Anything we want to change?
Not that you guys are going to agree
Boy.
with, but,
Yeah.
That you think is possible to be changed?
Oh,
Y'all aren't
no.
gonna budge on Wicked, huh?
And
No.
y'all aren't going to budge on Raptor.
No,
So,
no, especially not with Zach putting it at C.
Even if one of us did go up to A, it would still be a B with Zach
yeah,
saying
because
C.
of Zach being C.
I don't consider Zach's input anymore. He left us.
Fair, but
He left us with that. So,
I guess I'm like relatively content. Nothing's like more than one tier away from what I want it to be.
Yeah.
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 And I mean,
Yeah.
you know, being there as much as I obviously have my own bias with certain coasters, and there's just certain things that once you ride them enough, you just don't care enough to ride them anymore.
Yeah.
And there's certain things like when you never wait for coasters, like you'll never wait for it again.
Mhm.
So
I'd say if anything, like I wouldn't mind seeing Magnum go up to S, but then it would ruin the symmetry of this. So
Well, then we got to move Gemini up to A.
I'll take that.
I'd take that too.
Listen, I'll take it over moving Raptor to A at this point. Gemini is just a phenomenal
I don't think either of those should be A. So let's just leave everything.
I would just swap Corkscrew and Dragon personally.
I would say all things considered, no one's too upset, right?
I'm
Well, it took
just
us a while to
offended
get
that you would try to put Dragon lower than like Mine Ride. And like I love Mine Ride, but it's definitely not below Dragon.
I mean, with the one ride I got on it, it just didn't really inspire me that much. At least with like Mine Ride, they had like the janky like straight track that was like banked off to the side, and that was actually a little more thrilling than most of like it was like a little bit more thrilling than what was going on with Iron Dragon at least. You know, like I it's like I don't know, like
Also, one note about Iron Dragon that I think is a pretty big thing that I think people pass over a lot. It's the most accommodating coaster in this whole lineup. It is the only coaster without seatbelts.
Yeah.
And anybody, I've turned away 2 people in my time of ever working that ride, and it was because they were too tall and it didn't fit over their shoulders correctly.
Interesting.
And one person, it wasn't even like we said he couldn't ride, it was he wasn't comfortable and got out.
Interesting.
So really, I've only turned away one person who could not ride in terms of the restraint. So
Corkscrew has seatbelts?
just saying. Yes, Corkscrew has
Yeah.
seatbelts.
There's little seatbelts on the side.
They just don't physically check the seatbelt.
That's not
There's
safe.
like they do a visual check on the seatbelt, and then there's like a time during the day where they do a seatbelt check. So they actually cycle empty and open and close every single seatbelt on each train. But yes, Iron Dragon is the only coaster in the park that does not have seatbelts.
So I think we've figured out our tier list. Definitely one of the more symmetrical ones we've done. Really interesting though, like very symmetrical. I think this is really what you want from a park lineup.
Yeah, I'm satisfied visually.
But like the fact that they even have 3 what we would consider S tiers as a group
4.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
As a group.
I mean, you look at the coasters in B tier, and we would all be willing to put those higher up, but it's just because of the it's in the within the context of the park that they're that low.
Yeah.
But like I'm sure there were other people out there that would definitely say Top Thrill Dragster is an S, or Raptor is an S. I know a lot of people Raptor is like their favorite coaster of all time, which is still kind of crazy to me. But like cool man.
It's still a good ride.
It's still a good
You
ride.
can't
It's a
deny
very
that.
solid ride. Second favorite invert I've been on.
I know people who Corkscrew is their favorite ride.
Okay, Mario, no one.
And on that note,
But of course, thank you so much for watching this ridiculously long episode of Tiering the Parks. Thanks to our lovely friends Mario at Mostly Coasters. Make sure to go check him out on Instagram and YouTube especially. He's been posting YouTube content like crazy, and it's all fantastic. Better than my content, I'll tell you that 100%. Somebody else on Instagram, though, is our great pal Cliff from at analog_thrills. You should definitely go check him out. But he's got amazing analog photography as well as sometimes digital, and it is absolutely awesome. And then, of course,
I develop it in my bathroom.
And of course, our great pal, Becca, who was so kind to us last summer, letting us stay at her place to go to Cedar Point. I mean, it was a dream fulfilled thanks to her, really.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough for that. I'm sorry I didn't thank you in public.
it's okay.
But yeah,
I knew in my heart.
I'm so happy we were able to do that trip, because although we did talk a lot of bad stuff about the park just because it wasn't that perfect palace that we were expecting, it was still an absolutely amazing trip, and we enjoyed it more than we disliked it. So I mean, hell, these coasters are some of the best in the world, easily.
And if we do end up opening, you can attempt to find me at Max Air and Dodgem this season, for the 2020 season.
So yeah, if you want to, if you're able to go to Cedar Point and you want to go ride Max Air or Dodge 'em, you can go check out Becca and be like, hey, I saw you in a Parks Bros video. But also you can check her out on Instagram at A Thrilling Perspective.
If I
And,
ever decide to start posting again.
She doesn't post much, but you should go follow her regardless.
I also don't have nearly as much content because I'm not open nearly as much as you guys are anymore. So,
you know, happens.
Nowhere's open right now, so who cares?
But thank you
Universal
all-
is, but
well, yeah.
at the time of recording this.
But thank you all so much for being on to do this argument video, pretty much. But thank you all so much for watching. It means the absolute world. And make sure to subscribe if you would like to see more parks tiered like this in the future, like Fiesta Texas, if you guys want to do that. Disneyland is coming up, where we tier every single ride at Disneyland. That's going to be a long one. And yeah, there's some other parks that we're going to be doing too. Maybe like SeaWorld San Diego and Legoland would be kind of cool. But thank you again so much for watching. I know I say it way too much, but I really mean it. And until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.